1 week ago on this podcast, I said that Adnan Virk was terrible in the role of lead announcer on Raw. He had not gotten any better. He just didn't have the voice for it. Just didn't fit. Wasn't working out. And I said that I would be shocked if he was still employed there by the end of the year. 48 hours later, WWE and Virk announced that they had mutually agreed to part ways. He lasted all of 7 weeks on the job. Virk tweeted that the weekly travel along with his other jobs was a grind for him and his family. And while that may be true, this was less of a mutual decision and more of a WWE decision, recognizing what anyone with 2 ears could tell, which is that this was not working out. Per Fightful, WWE had made the call to get rid of him even before he worked the show last Monday. I knew he was doomed the moment that he did that podcast after he got the job, and he was already joking that, hey, if it doesn't work out, at least it would be a fun story for me to tell one day. That didn't inspire a lot of confidence when I heard that. He just wasn't lead announcer material in WWE. He was set up to fail from day one by putting him right in the hot seat as the lead announcer of their flagship show, 3 fucking hours every week, instead of putting him on a lesser show, a 1-hour show, a 2-hour show, in the lead spot, let him get his feet wet. They just threw him right into the fire, and they set this guy up to fail. Now, his replacement has already been announced as Jimmy Smith, who has been an analyst for UFC and Bellator. Now, recently he has popped up on NXT pre-shows doing some stuff. He's been, working closely with Michael Cole, and Michael Cole is supposedly very complimentary of him. But he's an MMA guy. He's an MMA guy who, by his own admission in a tweet he posted a couple of years ago, had not watched pro wrestling since he was in grade school. When Jimmy Smith was in grade school, Vince McMahon was hosting the first WrestleMania. Hulk Hogan was the champion. That's how long it's been since Jimmy Smith was a pro wrestling fan and was watching it with any sort of regularity. He starts tomorrow night with Corey Graves and Byron Saxton. He has never done play-by-play before. So we now have 3 color commentators on Monday Night Raw. And to put a nice bow on things, Tom Phillips, who was replaced by Virk the night after WrestleMania, was released this week. On April 12th, WWE put a press release out about Virk joining the Raw announce team and said that Phillips would become the new host of 205 Live and would oversee special projects for their programming on Peacock and would stay on as senior manager for on-air talent. And they also said that Samoa Joe remained with the company as part of its talent roster. This was after they took him off commentary. And it is just amazing how much can change in just a few weeks. So they replaced their longtime play-by-play guy who had been with the company for, I think, a decade or almost a decade, and has worked on Raw, has worked on SmackDown, has worked on NXT, with someone who has never called a wrestling match a day in his life. And then they replaced that guy with someone who not only has never called a wrestling match before, he hasn't even watched wrestling since he was a kid. He doesn't even do play-by-play. And then they fire the actual play-by-play guy that they previously demoted. These people have their heads so far up their asses they can smell their own farts before they even leave their anal cavity. I don't know what they're thinking. Pat McAfee, at least, has taken nicely to the role of color man on SmackDown. I think he does a good job. But the announce situation in WWE has never been in crisis mode more than it is today. It's like, theme music. When Jim Johnston was talking to Chris Van Vliet, and they had that great interview a few weeks ago, they talked about the importance of theme music, which is so true. The announcing plays such an important role in the show, just like theme music does. It adds so much, or it can. And there has been so much turnover with the announcers that, look, I hope Jimmy Smith ends up taking to the role the way Pat McAfee has. He's got an outgoing personality. He's got some charisma. Maybe he'll end up doing a bang-up job. Maybe he'll prove a lot of people wrong. But there has been so much turnover and just so many changes made. One guy is in and then he's out, and then another guy is in and he's out. And some of the announcers, they do an okay job, and some of the announcing is just fucking horrendous. And a lot of it has to do with the fact that they're produced a certain way, or they have Vince McMahon in their ear. So maybe in another environment, they'd be even better as an announcer. Maybe we don't get to see that because that's just not the way that WWE does things. But the announcing situation in this company has never been in more of a state of crisis than it is today. Hopefully this guy will last longer than 7 weeks. It would be embarrassing for the company if they were to get rid of him so soon after getting rid of Virk. So he'll last longer than 7 weeks. Even if he has a falling out with Vince McMahon, he'll last longer than Virk did. The question is, how much longer? We should all start taking bets. Let's all start taking bets. How much longer, I think, is going to depend on how he reacts to Vince McMahon yelling in his ear every week. Raw this week yet again, according to PW Insider, there was a lot of ripping up of the script all day before they went live on USA. A lot of the first hour of the show on Monday wasn't even finalized until 30 minutes before the show. It's like Nitro all over again. But we ended up with a good match between Drew McIntyre and Kofi Kingston in that first hour to decide who would challenge Bob Lashley for the WWE Championship at Hell in a Cell. Kofi had pointed out in the opening promo correctly that McIntyre is fed rematch after rematch after rematch. He told him to step his ass aside because he never got his rematch for the WWE title after being beaten by Brock Lesnar. And they were having a good match until Lashley attacked McIntyre while MVP attacked Kofi, so we got no winner. Adam Pearce announced a rematch for tomorrow night between McIntyre and Kingston, with the winner going to Hell in a Cell. And this time, if Lashley or MVP interfere, Lashley is suspended for 90 days without pay. The outcome will be the same as I predicted. Drew McIntyre is going to Hell in a Cell, I believe, to challenge for the WWE Championship one more time. I don't see them going, back-to-back months of triple threat matches on pay-per-view for that title. It was a good night for the New Day in the ring. Kofi had a real good match with Drew, but Xavier Woods and Matt Riddle stole the show in their match. I thought their match was fucking great. I loved the spot where they had their hands clasped together. Riddle was on his back, and Woods pulled him up in one motion into a vertical suplex position. Riddle hit a deadlift German from the middle rope with one of the worst landings I've ever seen on a German suplex. Woods landed right on top of his head. I liked Riddle getting frustrated and hitting an RKO for the win at the end. After the match, he looked into the camera and said, "That one's for you, Randy." And on Twitter, Orton's reaction was, "Nice form, but don't steal my shit." This was the best Xavier Woods singles match I've seen him have in WWE. You know, he wants to be King of the Ring. If they ever do another King of the Ring tournament, I don't know about winning it, but he absolutely deserves to be in it. And maybe go all the way to the finals before falling short. But this was great stuff.